I'm Piers Badnell. I work for LIC as a consultant in Southern England. I'm one of four consultants covering Great Britain and Ireland. We're here today to talk about setting up a rotational grazing system. I suppose the first place to start is that Britain and Ireland is our climatic advantage to grow grass. We have a temperate climate. Any cow can graze. What it needs is training, but from our point of view, it needs good quality put in front of it. It's about what can we get from it. And maintenance plus 20, 25, and it does depend on how much the cows eat of grass and the size of cows and level of production, but maintenance plus 20 to 25 is a good ballpark figure to start with. So really then it's about understanding, working it back and actually doing the figures on setting up a rotational grazing system. So the costs of doing it and the returns coming back to it. 99 times out of 100, that's a positive end. The fundamentals to making a rotational grazing system work are having infrastructure. To get them out in late season and early season, we need some way of doing that. The tracks are absolutely essential. Minimum amount of track for maximum amount of flexibility to get to pasture. As an idea, 15 to 30 pound a running metre. That sounds a lot, but actually it's about getting a return on that investment, and you will get a return on that investment. The gateway is the limiting factor. If the gate's wet, doesn't matter if the field's dry and can take cows, you're not going to get them there. The other part of infrastructure is water, and water supply is about flow rate and volume. Generally cows would want to drink together, so there's a huge demand, and what we don't want them is being short of water. On a hot day in June, the cows behind me could drink 100 litres of water, and a bigger Holstein type animal could drink 130, 140 litres. What we need is the troughs to be actually out in the middle of the paddock so they can get round. How many cows per hectare should we be having? Well, stocking rate is a bit of a blunt tool, but I'll give you a very ballpark round figure. On the grazing platform, 3 cows per hectare, on overall 2.5. The things that affect that is how big the cow is, how much feed you're feeding elsewhere, etc., and stage of lactation, and how much you can actually grow. So a ballpark target figure will be growing 10 tonnes of dry matter per hectare, in certain places 14 and 15 tonnes. But also, we may well get the stocking rate right, but it depends on how much buffer we're feeding or other products we're feeding. Fundamentally, if there's enough grass on the platform for what the cow needs, and buffer is the enemy, because it takes her mind off the grazing. We've seen here a really good residual. If these cows were being buffer fed, they'd be thinking about the trough and not feeding here. There's a bit more to it. Please come and talk to us about that. But basically, that's what we're trying to do with stocking rate. Match demand from the cow to what the actual land area can grow. So we have small areas of about the same size, but 25 to 30 areas is the key. Reason for that is that most of the season your grazing rotation, how long it takes to get from a residual back to point of growing, is going to be 20 to 25 days, and then a bit later and then earlier in the season it's a bit longer. So if you have 25 to 30 areas, almost a paddock a day. One of the hurdles to a number of people about rotational grazing is my land is too heavy or my land is too wet. I'm yet to see anything that is too wet or too heavy. If it's actually a bog and I sink up to my waist, then it's too wet and too heavy. The final and the big bit to the cog is actually measuring. So that comes down to using a plate meter to understand growth rates, how much grass you've got, and then to allocate properly. And you can see me around me now, a really good residual. So actually the cows are allocated the right area to graze down to this good residual. If they've been given double the area, then they wouldn't have hit the residuals, because physically they wouldn't be able to eat it all. And then you get rejection, and then you get older grass, and that grass that's rejected this round only gets worse for the next round. So fundamentally, at the end of the season, if you follow that course, you end up with 50 to 60% of the farm not grazed and not utilised. So it's about having that, tightening that management, understanding what the cow needs and just giving her that bit. And if you put quality in front of her, that's your part of the bargain. Her part of the bargain is to eat it.